Welcome to DBL. All right, so here's an interesting conversation. So first and foremost, former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger has died at 100 years old. His consulting firm confirmed his death yesterday, but did not provide a cause. He was President Nixon's national security advisor and later Secretary of State, and he helped negotiate the peace deal to end the Vietnam War and helped open up China to the U.S. Now, under President Ford, he brokered arms control talks with the Soviet Union and negotiated ties between Israel and Egypt. But his 1973 Nobel Peace Prize was met with protests over his role in orchestrating the secret carpet bombing of Cambodia, which killed tens of thousands of people. Still, Kissinger was a darling of Hollywood, who was often photographed with stars like Elizabeth Taylor, Raquel Welch, Princess Diana, and that's just to name a few. He reportedly dated Bond girl Jill St. John, Diane Sawyer. He was also romantically linked with actress Shirley MacLaine and Zsa Zsa Gabor back in the day. Even after leaving politics, he regularly consulted with presidents, including Bush, including Obama and Trump, on foreign policy matters. But if you read any papers today, a lot of people will point out some of the horrors. So how do we grapple with acknowledging a loss of life and their checkered past, so to speak?
Well, I mean, really, if you combine the two things that you just said, you're talking about somebody that was highly influential, and no matter how you feel about it, it shaped the way we look at the world and the way the world looks now. But we do ourselves a disservice when we only look at one angle. Yes, he did receive the Nobel Peace Prize, but what happened in Cambodia, and Jeff, you visited, and I want to save a ton of space because you were actually had boots on the ground, but he dragged a neutral country and extended the Vietnam War. And also the regime that the American-backed regime that he put in place in Cambodia fell to the Khmer Rouge. And if you've ever know anything about the killing fields or know what happened to those people, it's not to be be believed, and they say that it exterminated 20% of the Cambodian.
25%, a quarter.
What I just read said 20, but let's 20 to 25%. Just imagine a quarter of the United States going. Just try and sit back and imagine that. So you know, we're not going to even get into what happened in South America. He dropped 9 billion tons of munitions in Indochina over the course of his tenure. So for him to get the Nobel Peace Prize was something else. But, you know, controversial,
complicated figure.
Yes.
I just very quickly want to say, and I do want to
our past in America is too, and
absolutely
talk about
absolutely. And this is a intelligent, intellectually stimulating, and nuanced conversation. I hate saying that word, but it really is. You taught me duality of thought. This man did wonderful things for our relationship with China. Amazing. Opened it up to a complete different trade deal. We weren't even talking to China. And he did horrendously evil things to the people of Cambodia and other places. Can both be true? Yes. That's Henry Kissinger. He is a lot like America's history. He's a lot like the world's history. There's really bad things and there's really good things, and sometimes we only shine a light on the good. And this show, we do both.
I love that.
I just, real quickly, I don't want to make this about Cambodia, but I was there, and if you ever go there, that's why I would say traveling is the best form of history to learn. I mean, what Pol Pot did with the Khmer Rouge, and that country is devastated to this day, devastated. And the people are so great and so docile, and you never think that happened. I got to talk to survivors of that. I mean, they left the remains there. There's a killing field for a reason. The bones are there. I don't want, it's horrific, and it's something that I don't think a lot of Americans even know happens,
because it was buried for so long.
Yeah, but to get back to Henry Kissinger, I do believe that there will be a movie in the works because he was so controversial, because he was so dynamic, whether you like it or not. He was a world leader as well as immersed in Hollywood. It's a very interesting figure to talk about, and I think there will be an Academy Award winning picture on the way.
And I hope it shows both. I'm sure it will. In 2023,
that's why it's going to be so great, because you're going to show the duality of both.
Agreed. Yes. Thank you for that, Jeff. Okay, so it looks like a movie, speaking of movies, based on the early life of Donald Trump called The Apprentice is in the works. So Marvel star Sebastian Stan will play a young Donald Trump. The movie will show Trump's efforts to build his real estate empire in New York. Maria Bakalova, who starred in the Borat sequel, will play Trump's first wife, Ivana. Sebastian Stan is no stranger to playing controversial people. He starred as Tommy Lee in the Hulu series Pam and Tommy and received an Emmy and Golden Globe nod for his role. Do you think, Tori, that this will help or hurt Trump's image?
I think this will add to people's knowledge of Donald Trump. Many people see him from the 2016s and on as this presidential political figure. Before that, many people don't know about his real estate age. This is my theory on the movie. It's going to take you into the 90s and 80s, in which he was a mover and player and a playboy, really, in New York. But he got $1 million loan from his father, Fred Trump, who is a notorious real estate mogul. Also very notorious racially, because he was part of the Klan and also had convictions for racial discrimination. The Apprentice, to me, sounds like it will be their relationship. It will be Fred Trump to Donald Trump. I could be wrong.
Interesting.
But the
I
only
think that's a great
apprenticeship we see is the only person he looks up to is his father. We hear very little about his family, but Fred started this empire motivation for Donald Trump. No one knows about that part of his life, and I think it'd be fascinating to see it. There'll be sex, drugs, rock and roll, and Ivana was a major part of helping him get up there. So I think you'll see a father-son relationship in this movie.
Do you think they're going to touch on any of the racially motivated things that he did in the 80s, whether it be the Central Park 5 and taking out the ad in the paper, calling for their death? Do you think any of that will be showed?
I don't know. But I do
hope it is.
You know, if it's done responsibly, yes. If it's going to be glossed over, then no. You know, I think when we're having conversations about history, and as Tori will often say, like, history is told by, you know, the side of the victor. And I think it is important that we understand how things came to be today and the impact that it had. When I think about things that I choose to watch versus things that I'll pass on, it's not always necessarily things that are aligned with my ideology, whether that be personally, politically, or whatever else. I think of Get Me Roger Stone, the documentary or the series on Netflix, and I watched that 4 times because I wanted to understand how we got to this place politically and the role that Roger Stone really played in all of that. I likely would watch this as well. I don't know what it'll touch on, but I do think it is important that we at least get a lens as to how Trump became the Trump that he was today, when by all practical, you know, any other indication, it really didn't look that way if we're talking about the 80s and 90s, that this would be the role that he would play in America.
That's why, quick curveball, I'm not sure if Trump or his father will be the main center point of this movie.
I
think what this will give the director a chance to do, which will also help them get out of any controversy from the left or the right side, is make New York City the main character, because New York City is the genesis, is the birth of from where all of this came out, all of this crazy money, all of this crazy real estate, all of the racial things that were going on in the 80s in New York, what Times Square looked like. You had the mob was running things. There were porn shops in the middle of Times Square, which has an M&M store now. How we got from there to this,
I don't know.
I think will also show us how Donald Trump rose to power and how it shaped how he thinks.
I have to correct something. Fred Trump, his father, was arrested attending a Ku Klux Klan. He wasn't known. Detained, excuse me. He was not a known Klan member. I wanted to make that clear. He was allegedly, excuse me, I wanted to make that clear.
Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.